In this video, we will focus in detail on the structure of the heart. The heart is a large, cone-shaped muscular organ which lies in the thoracic cavity and the mediastinum, mainly on the left. The work of the heart continuously provides the entire body with nutrients and oxygen. This is due to the constant contraction of the cells that make up the walls of the heart, called cardiomyocytes. Watch more videos in the EasyAnatomy app. With EasyAnatomy, you can learn much easier and faster. We provide a comprehensive video library, related PDF notes, and atlas sections with engaging flashcards. Download EasyAnatomy from the link in the description. It should be noted that there are two types of cardiomyocytes. Typical, working cardiomyocytes that contract mechanically under the influence of electrical impulses, and atypical cardiomyocytes. These generate and conduct nerve impulses. Such cardiomyocytes form the so-called conducting system of the heart. The sequential contraction of the myocardium forms the cardiac cycle. The human heart has 4 cavities, which are called chambers. These are the left atrium, the left ventricle, the right atrium, and the right ventricle. The right ventricle and the left atrium are components of the pulmonary circulation, and the left ventricle and right atrium are components of the systemic circulation. Let's consider the external structure of the heart. It has the following surfaces. The anterior one is the sternocostal surface. The inferior one is the diaphragmatic surface. The lateral ones are the pulmonary surfaces, right and left, the base of the heart, and the apex of the heart. There are depressions or sulci on the surfaces of the heart. The coronary sulcus, which is located between the atria and the ventricles. The anterior interventricular sulcus. The posterior or inferior interventricular sulcus. And the notch of the cardiac apex, which connects the anterior and posterior interventricular sulci between each other. On the outside, the heart is covered with the so-called pericardium. The heart wall consists of 3 layers: the epicardium, the myocardium, and the endocardium. The epicardium is the external fibrous capsule of the heart. It passes into the serous pericardium. The myocardium is the middle muscle layer. The atrial myocardium is separated from the ventricular myocardium. The atrial myocardium consists of 2 layers. The superficial layer, which consists of circularly arranged fibers, and the deep layer, consisting of longitudinally arranged fibers. The ventricular myocardium consists of 3 layers. The superficial layer consists of longitudinally arranged fibers and forms a helix at the apex of the heart. The middle layer consists of circularly arranged fibers. The internal layer consists of longitudinally arranged fibers. The endocardium is the internal layer of the heart, which covers the papillary and pectinate muscles, cords, and valves. The heart also has a skeleton of sorts, which is called the fibrous skeleton of the heart and includes the following structures: the right annulus fibrosus, the left annulus fibrosus, located in the projection of the coronary sulcus, the annulus fibrosus of the aorta, the annulus fibrosus of the pulmonary trunk, the right fibrous trigone, the left fibrous trigone. In the right fibrous trigone, there is an opening through which the fibers of the conducting system of the heart pass. Let's examine each of the 4 chambers of the heart in greater detail. The right atrium has an additional cavity called the right auricle. From the inferior side, it is delimited by the right atrioventricular orifice and the tricuspid valve, through which venous blood enters the right ventricle. The interatrial septum, on the surface of which there is an oval fossa, is a border between the right and left atria. The superior and inferior vena cava end by the right atrium in the area of the sinus of venae cavae. There is a coronary sinus of the heart between them. In the area of the confluence of the inferior vena cava, there is a valve of the inferior vena cava. At the same level, there is a valve of the coronary sinus. On the internal surface of the right auricle and partially the anterior wall of the atrium, there are pectinate muscles. The right ventricle is separated from the left one by the interventricular septum. In the right ventricle, there is an opening of the pulmonary trunk. Venous blood enters the lungs through the pulmonary trunk. There is a tricuspid valve between the superior and inferior chambers of the right half of the heart. It regulates the flow and release of blood in this part of the heart. Let's examine its structure in greater detail. The right atrioventricular, or tricuspid, valve consists of the annulus fibrosus, anterior, posterior, and septal cusps, which are covered with the endocardium, tendinous cords, which are attached to the 3 papillary muscles holding the valve cusps. Between the papillary muscles, there are the trabeculae carnii. The pulmonary trunk arises from the right ventricle in the area of the conus arteriosus. It is also separated from the ventricular cavity by a valve. The pulmonary valve consists of the annulus fibrosus, the left semilunar cusp, the right semilunar cusp, and the anterior semilunar cusp. Nodules of the semilunar cusps, sinuses of the pulmonary trunk. The left half of the heart has similar structural features. Let's examine it in greater detail. The left atrium, just like the right one, has an additional cavity called the left auricle. Pectinate muscles are present on the internal surface of the auricle. From the inferior side, it is delimited by the right atrioventricular orifice and the tricuspid valve, through which venous blood enters the right ventricle. 4 pulmonary veins end in the cavity of the left atrium. The left ventricle is located below the atrium. The left ventricle is the largest chamber of the heart. Its wall is the thickest, and its contraction provides a large volume of blood discharge into the aorta, which is the largest artery of our body. Let's examine the structure of the left atrioventricular, bicuspid or mitral valve. It consists of the annulus fibrosus, the anterior and posterior cusps, which are covered with the endocardium, the tendinous cords, which are attached to 2 papillary muscles holding the valve cusps, the trabeculae carnii, which are located between the papillary muscles. The aorta, which also has its own valve, arises from the left ventricle in the area of the aortic orifice. It consists of the following structures: the annulus fibrosus, the right semilunar cusp, the posterior semilunar cusp, and the left semilunar cusp, nodules of the semilunar cusps, sinuses of Valsalva or aortic sinuses. The right and left halves of the heart are separated from each other and normally do not connect in any way. There is an interventricular septum between the ventricles which has 2 parts: the muscular part and the membranous part.